Hey, today we're going to go over 10 things you may not know about body-worn cameras. Not sure about body-worn cameras or not familiar with them? Then stay tuned. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to go over 10 things you may not know about body-worn cameras. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Dustin McKinney with Motorola Solutions, or WSI. I'm Marketing and Training Manager here. My guest today is?
My name is Ryan Brady. I'm with Motorola Solutions and I'm a Regional Sales Manager for body-worn camera.
Ryan, can you give us a quick overview of our two products here?
Absolutely. Our two products that we have today to show you is the VT100 and the VB400. Two definitely different cameras that have a lot of different features. The most important difference between these two is that the VB400 is more policy-based, more rugged, 64 gigabytes of storage, which can last an entire shift if need be. The VT100 is one that you kind of keep around this deployable in case of emergency. 6-month battery life, it can sit in a desk for 6 months without being charged, which is pretty cool. This one has 16 gigs of RAM. They both have 330 degrees of viewable footage, and it's meant to mimic the human eye.
Okay, great. That's great. Okay, so leading right into our questions, I'll just start us off here. So summarize in a few sentences what the obvious benefits are of implementing body-worn cameras from both a company perspective and a customer's perspective. That's
a great question, Dustin. We get that a lot. How can this help our company? And the things that I usually refer people to are time, money, and prevention. So the cameras can all save companies time by reviewing footage on the camera rather than interviewing people. Anybody who's in management knows that when you have to interview people, how that goes. It ends up being really difficult, taking a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
Money, for the price of a deployment of these cameras would pay for a retainer of a lawyer. You know, we think about mitigating lawsuits all the time. Obviously, this gives us a perspective, and you get a chance to really own the narrative with that discussion.
Absolutely.
The last one, prevention. When you wear a body-worn camera, that prevents issues from happening. It's one of the few products that you have that when you're wearing and you walk up in a situation, somebody's going to act differently. They're going to choose to make a better choice because they know they're being recorded.
Yep. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So in the grand scheme of things, the purchase of a body-worn camera compared to, let's say, a lawsuit or the time spent investigating an incident, it's really a no-brainer, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dustin, what types of businesses can benefit from the use of body-worn cameras? And can you give a few examples?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. You know, the obvious answer is something like security. You know, those guys obviously know the benefits of body-worn cameras, right? They're out in the field. They're more tied to the police departments of the world, so that they see that, you know, in the news daily, right? So they understand the value of body-worn cameras and how it can benefit them. But we see the possibilities really as seemingly endless. So anything from a retail environment, you know, you've already mentioned it from an accountability perspective from retailers. You know, these are part-time teenagers. They don't always do and say the right thing, right? So it's accountability from an employer's perspective, knowing their employees are going to be acting and treating customers the right way, right? But there's a few other examples, such as we could see maintenance guys out in the field, or like pest control. You know, anytime you're in someone's environment or in someone's house unattended, you know, again, that ties right back to the accountability, right?
Absolutely, we've all had those concerns.
Yeah, absolutely.
People
so,
come in our homes.
Security, anything like that. Really anything customer facing, right, where you need that critical first person perspective. So, you know, I have everything that I'm saying to you, but I also have not only video, but I also have audio as well, and that can be critical for seemingly everybody for the reasons you've already mentioned.
Yes, sir.
Yep. So, I was going to tie into this, but this kind of leads right into your next question. So, yes, what advantages do body-worn cameras have over CCTV?
There's so many, but really the biggest ones are if you have a CCTV mount that's our camera that's in the ceiling and it's looking in a certain direction, there's no change to that. You know, whatever if you're in 720 or if you're in 480, as most cameras are that are hanging off a wall, they only look in one direction. They have a certain prescribed field of view, and if somebody moves or a situation moves, it's not fluid.
Right.
The body-worn camera provides you a face level event. So I'm looking here and I'm looking directly at what's going on.
Yep.
What's important about that is the CCTV also looks down, and it doesn't give us the same perspective that we normally have.
Yeah.
This is designed to look like a human eye and how the people are walking into a situation and what they had to deal with in that situation. It's much more personable.
I think audio is key there too, right?
Yes, sir.
Even if CCTV systems have audio, it can't be good, right? Because you're 30 feet away.
And we have two, on our VB400, we have two microphones, and we have a sound port as well, or a wind port, excuse me. And it's great. It can really clear out a lot of the garbling, and it really helps capture a bigger view, a bigger understanding more of the situation as it unfolds. Okay.
So I was thinking, you know, we've all seen it, right? Videos or pictures of bank robbers and stuff like that. Those are lacking quality, to say the least.
Oh,
from
absolutely.
The CCTV system, right? So if we're trying to get an example of, you know, why these will be better, just think that when you think CCTV, that's what we're talking about, right? So very high level, not face to face, you know, no audio. So obviously, like you said, a lot of benefits.
Yes, sir. Dustin, can you go over some of the unique feature sets that these cameras have?
Yeah, absolutely. So Motorola Solutions body-worn cameras have a lot of technology and feature sets that aren't available in some of our competitors' products. So my main thing is full ownership when we're talking about our camera products. So you own the video, you own the camera, you own the footage, as opposed to some of the other guys. You may have to pay a maintenance fee or a DVR fee, for lack of a better term. You know, I'm not quite sure what they would call it, but
reoccurring costs.
Reoccurring costs, in general. So you own it. So you're controlling your own data, your own video, user-based permissions. All that is available in our product, and that's all included with purchase. That's the great thing about it.
Yeah. I was just going to say, when you buy that license, you have that license.
Exactly.
You know, that's what's nice about it. There's no reoccurring fee.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yep. So feature sets, we do have on the VT100. You know, it's really just very easy to use, right? You've got two buttons on the back. They both do the same thing. Super user friendly. You press the button to record. You press it again to stop recording. We have a diverse offering of mounting options. You know, such as the VB400 here with our click fast system. We have, geez, what, 8 or 9 options for that for that configuration alone, right?
Absolutely. From Molly to just a easy attachment point with a magnet, we can hook you up the way you want it.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're looking at a large camera fleet, you know, anywhere from 1 to 10,000, we have a mounting option that's going to meet everyone's needs. You know, because it's nice to think that I can implement a camera and say, everybody deal with this mount and deal with it, right? But that's not reality. Everybody has their preferences. You know, you got different staff in a different working environment that have different type of uniforms. So we have that diverse product offering in terms of mounts is huge.
Yes, sir.
And some of the added feature sets more on the VB400. This is our more robust option, as we've kind of alluded to. We have Bluetooth triggers as an option. We have peer assisted recording, which is very nice. So if I initiate a recording and you're within roughly 30 feet, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So rough, Bluetooth range from camera to camera, it'll sense that my camera's turned on, and Ryan's, for example, would turn on and automatically start recording. So not only do we have that critical first person perspective face to face, but now we have third person, someone looking at the event from an alternate view, which is really, really nice. We also have pre-record and post-record. So, things happen in the blink of an eye, right? We're not always aware enough to press our button and start our recording if someone lunges at us or we have a confrontation, right? I mean, and in reality, when we're in the middle of that, the last thing on our mind is, I really need to start recording on my camera, right? Yeah. So we can actually capture up to 2 minutes before we ever press the record button on these cameras. So, most of our encounters, they're not going to be 2 minutes, right? We're talking 30 seconds, something like that, and then we're pretty much done with. So that gives you some peace of mind from an employee and employer perspective that we can still capture those events if something happens by capturing up to 2 minutes before.
So important, because always when there's a situation, there's an antecedent for the behavior. There's something that happened beforehand that caused that.
Yep.
And we're hoping on catching that and providing that part of the scenario so everybody sees the bigger picture.
Yeah, and like you say, control the narrative, right?
Yes, sir.
Everybody has their phones, and they start recording when it's convenient to them.
Absolutely.
Right? So social media is it's great and it's bad in certain ways. So
this
helps you control that narrative, so to speak, because you can show what happened before an incident occurred that led to those actions. And post-record as well on the back end. So we can actually capture up to 2 minutes after we stop recording. So let's say I'm a loss prevention guy approaching somebody or security guard, and I approach somebody, kind of de-escalate the situation, right? Well, now I press the button, they think I'm done recording. Well, guess what? Now they're coming for round 2, because now they think their actions aren't being caught. So we can capture 2 minutes after that as well, which is a really, really cool feature.
Outstanding. No worries. You did a great job of covering them, Dustin. There's so many things that these cameras can do, just so configurable. Any button on the VB400 can be configured to do really whatever you want. It's incredible, and all that is given through the VideoManager to the end user. They can make the choice to set that camera up the way they want to.
Yep. Yep. So some people may ask, do body cameras really work? So I know you have some, not first person point of view, but you're well aware of certain situations where body cameras have been beneficial. So can you give an example where it actually proved to be ultra beneficial?
Absolutely. I was working for a school district that had in the evening, we had in the news, all of a sudden, a video came out of a student being assaulted by a law enforcement officer. And
it's not a good look, is it?
No, it's not a good look. So, of course, where the camera footage came from, it came from the students around that were recording it. And so nothing against the students, but they did not provide what led up to the incident. Later that evening, the body-worn camera footage was downloaded by the sheriff's office, and during a press conference they released the whole video footage that showed the 15 minutes leading up to the incident, where the law enforcement officer did everything that they could to try to get that student to comply with what was happening. It also caught all the things that the student said and the actions that they took against the law enforcement officer. So it was interesting when I talk about owning the narrative. The students owned the narrative of that footage, and what was shown obviously cast the sheriff's office and the school board in a very negative light. But when we saw the whole thing, we realized that they had done everything that they possibly could to get that student to comply before having to be arrested.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yes, sir.
Huge. So next question. So we often have concerns coming up regarding customers or employees, not feeling comfortable having their actions recorded. Obviously we address from an accountability perspective, from a protection perspective. Can you kind of dive deeper into how that is actually beneficial for someone?
Absolutely.
As opposed to a roadblock?
I've talked to many union members, many end users who are very concerned about having a camera. And I think that the biggest things to understand about our cameras is that they don't turn on until the button is pushed. You can't remotely turn a camera on, so it's not constantly watching what you're doing.
Yeah.
Our VB400, with our 2 minutes before, our pre-record, and 2 minutes after, it does buffer at times, but we have options to turn that off. So if you have to take a break, it can be turned off, the buffering feature. But the biggest thing to remember is that this is for that employee's safety. So the employee engages this when they feel threatened, when they have a concern. It's not to turn it on so a supervisor or somebody else can view what they do. It's to prevent bad things from happening to the employee.
Yeah, exactly. And funny enough, I've heard a lot of people say, I may want to capture an employee doing something that I don't want them to do, and I just, okay, well, isn't that the point, right?
Yeah.
So not only is it a protection tool, but it could be a training tool, right?
Absolutely. We have had some end users who use this to look at a way something is wired, or something that's not easy to bring a camera up to, and use that for footage, and then store footage, and then later as they're training new people, say, well, we're going to do this today, watch this video. And this is a linesman, or this is a utilities worker that's doing just that. Okay. So it's really cool. It can be used as a training footage. In fact, we have another case of use. It's a college. I'm not going to mention the college, but when they do a fire instruction, when they're being graded, they use this to record the student. So afterwards, they can go back and look to make sure that they have done everything, and then have multiple people grade a student on what they've done.
Okay, great. Oh, I was going to mention. So you mentioned the whole thing of we can't go in and watch you remotely and everything, right? So, but I also think that ties into our full ownership, right? So, again, you own the footage. This is all controlled in your VideoManager software, your database. So, it's not like it's being streamed somewhere to the cloud or being stored elsewhere, right? So, you have full control of what is and is not shared internally and externally, which is also huge. So, if there are concerns of basically just being monitored, right? That's a good peace of mind for employers and employees too, that their actions aren't being shared with anyone unless, you know, it's within the policy or there's an event that calls for that to be shared.
Absolutely. In the VideoManager, you can actually determine who gets to see the footage, and there's a log that shows who's had access. So anything can be reviewed. If something, you know, we can tell who's been watching it. It's a great system that allows for the most amount of privacy.
That's great. Yeah, really great.
So speaking of privacy, when we talked a little bit about it, can you talk to me about privacy concerns? You know, we hear concerns a lot from, you know, is this a breach of HIPAA, FERPA, you know, out in public. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Sure, yeah. So from a HIPAA concern, I think the majority of people, you know, are obviously concerned with recording people and everything like that. But keep in mind, if you're in a hospital, healthcare setting in general, they have files on everything about you, right? I mean, they have all your medical history, everything that's going on. They have to be informed, right? They have to make educated decisions. It's no different with the body-worn camera, but you know, where HIPAA comes in is if you're sharing that information externally. Okay. Again, full control of your system, right? Yep. I kind of sound like I'm repeating myself over and over, but that's a huge selling point. If you're not sharing it externally or internally within whatever your policies call for, there shouldn't be any HIPAA concerns. And then from a privacy perspective, overall in public, you know, private properties is a little bit different. That tends to vary by state, one party or two party consent. But as a general rule of thumb, if you're in public, you're on CCTV anytime you go into a retail store and a grocery store, whatever, right? So what's the difference? There is no difference in terms of privacy laws. Now, there is an assumption of privacy in certain areas, right? So for example, changing rooms, bathrooms, places like that, maybe a break room, you know, but you know, again, that all leads to policy. So we very firmly preach having a proper policy in place. When am I allowed to record? If there's an accidental recording, can we delete the footage, so on and so forth. So as long as you have a proper policy in place, that should eliminate any privacy concerns.
You know, and come to think of it, every time I've been in a hospital, they have a lot of cameras there already.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's definitely not a camera concern. It's a release of information.
Yeah,
that's the concern.
Yep. So hopefully I didn't steal too much of your thunder, but I think now's a good time to mention policy. So why is it important to implement a proper policy?
Very important for policy so that employees understand what the ramifications are and what they need to do with it. So if my policy is, you know, when an employee gets this camera and they say, you know, I don't like the idea of having a camera and wearing a camera. But if they know that I only have to turn it on at certain points, it makes it very easy to understand. And again, going back to our discussion about the camera and the employee feeling comfortable because it's there to help them.
Sure.
Okay, so the policy designs that. We've worked with fire departments that we've talked to, the union, and with the union, their interests are, what are we going to use this for? How can it be used after? So the union gets together with the leadership and determines what the policy is going to be. Okay. So if somebody says, you know, like, well, look, I don't want you to use this as part of my evaluation, that needs to be part of the policy.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, if you have, if you're a guard and you are picking up money and going in an armored car, then the policy, if the policy is that you turn it on every time you're carrying money, then that needs to be there, and it needs to be enforced so that there's no issues down the road with people trying to bend or break the rules.
Sure, your product's only as good as your policy. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And a policy is, and we worked with a lot of companies. Motorola's worked directly to help write policy so that people understand. And we're always willing to do that. Okay,
shameless plug here for WSI. You know, we are a value-added distributor for body cameras and two-way radio products. So that's where we would urge any of our resellers or potential end users to get us involved. So we actually have, I got to be careful with the wording, kind of a policy outline document. This is not a recommendation on what to do because obviously we don't want to deal with that, right?
Yeah.
However, we have a list of things to consider when you're writing your policy. You know,
absolutely.
If this happens, what should your policy be? Just a high level overview of things to think about when you're writing that policy, because we've seen in the sales process, that's kind of our biggest roadblock in implementing cameras, is when we get to the policy piece.
Well, that's great. And you know, people that are starting from scratch or in a new industry that hasn't done something before, well, you know, they have an outline. Sure. Things to think about, things that they're not going to think about, that they're going to agree with the union, or they're going to write a policy and then have to change it 6 months later. To consider all those things and to be prepared ahead of time is wonderful.
Okay, yeah, great.
So Dustin, I know that there's lots of cameras out there, but our cameras are very security savvy, because we know that we're going to go into areas that have security concerns, literally security firms, hospitals, schools that have to be encrypted. How does this product make sure that that happens?
So that's a fantastic question. Both of our products offer full encryption at rest, in transit, and in use. So what I mean by that is it's 256-bit encryption, which is essentially as high as you can get in a product that's not really meant for government, right? And ultimately, that's a huge differentiator between us and a lot of other competitors. So your GoPros of the world, your $80 body-worn cameras that you can buy on Amazon, you know, they all have a memory card or just a USB plug where you can plug in and pull the footage, right? So that leads to our permission-based access. So somebody can't take my camera and plug it up into their software, even if they have a VideoManager license installed on their camera. If my camera is not assigned to a user within their system, they can't pull that footage. So basically, if it's out of the owner's hands, it's a paperweight, so it's useless. So that's a huge advantage, knowing that even if I'm recording something and my camera gets lost or stolen or broken, whatever, somebody can't just pull that footage.
What if I took a hammer to it and found the chip inside that had the data on there?
Again, you have to have that. You have to have permission within VideoManager to pull information off of that specific camera.
So there's no way you're getting that footage off there?
Absolutely not. No, and it's all user-based. So even within your system, you assign capabilities or responsibilities by role type. So when you're creating users, you assign them a specific role. You have unlimited users, unlimited role types within the software, and it's all fully customizable. We have hundreds of options. So it may be where Ryan Brady all that you can do is check out a camera and return it for your daily usage. Now you may have a system administrator, again, policy, it all leads into whatever your policy is in place. You control who can view video, who can alter or edit video, who can share it internally or externally. So unless you have an assigned user with that specific permission, you're never going to get that footage.
That's cool, and that leads into our last question about our VideoManager.
That's right.
With our cameras, we have included in the price of all of our cameras is our VideoManager software. It's on version 15. It's been used for years and years, and it is an incredibly simplistic system, yet very powerful. We've talked about a lot of the different things that it can do, and user privileges. You know, you can lock it down to where somebody's job is just to come get this, put it on themselves, and at the end of the day to hang it up, you can open it up all the way to where you can download and create files. You can even create a file with multiple camera views for multiple cameras, and then attach a police report to the file, and then export that whole document and ship that out to law enforcement. So it's really neat what you can do with it. The simplicity of it is great though. I can tell you that when I started playing with it, probably within 5 minutes, I could redact videos myself. We also have that feature where you can redact people's faces. So if you need to put something out to the public, you can redact so people can't see what, or you can't see specific people's faces.
And it's also important to keep in mind that it's never going to delete the original footage.
Correct.
It's always going to create a copy.
Yep. No, when we talk about the legal aspects in the law, we're always going to have a clean copy. It will never erase the clean copy of the original footage. Everyone is going to want to see that. The judge, the lawyer is going to want to see the original, not anything redacted. Even when we talk about some of our cameras that we've seen with our competitors, you know, they have buffering and they have image stabilization. That ceases to make that footage original. That is adapted footage. So it's part of that causes animation to go in and to change things. The idea is to see exactly what that person saw when they had to go into that situation. There's no altered. It's not brighter. It's not darker. It is exactly what that person saw.
Sure. And that's crucial, right? Because we have to factor in the human element, right? So if I'm reviewing something, you've already mentioned the field of view, basically the human eye, 130, 140 degrees. So if we're reviewing something after the fact, it's easy to say, well, you know, Ryan should have seen something in his peripherals way over here. Well, that's not true. If you have a 180 degree view in your camera, when you're looking at basically the human eye, you're capturing something that you and I would have actually seen or not seen.
Exactly.
Which is crucial.
You know, seeing in the dark is great and it's wonderful, but after the fact, if somebody says, well, why didn't you see this? Why, you know, it's clearly right there, and it doesn't show the true picture of what the employee or the security agent actually saw during that situation. And that's what we want to promote, is what they see. Because again, that goes to the end user and it protects our end users. It helps protect the companies that they work for by seeing exactly what they saw.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, that's all we have for today. Thanks, Ryan, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about body-worn cameras, please leave a comment below. Like what you saw? Remember to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos about body-worn cameras and two-way radios.